the next topic that I want to bring up to you, staying on Mike, but we dealing with a whole lot of Mikes here. Mike, right? We're going to talk about it right now. Who is the biggest Mike? Who is the GOAT Mike of all Mikes? Michael Jackson. Mike, so rank them. I know everybody's going to say Michael Jackson because it's obvious. But let's rank them from 1 to 3.
Tyson.
I agree. Michael, you agree?
Yeah,
Jackson.
Jordan's always Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. Even Michael Jordan said when he met Michael Jackson, he was in awe of Michael Jackson. So if the GOAT in basketball said that, you know Michael Jackson is the number one Mike.
I'm not a big fan of Mike Jackson. To me, it's Jordan.
Why you not the biggest Michael Jackson fan?
I think there's some there's a little bit of truth to some of the claims that have been made against him. I'm not saying everybody's telling the truth, but I think there is some truth there. So just for me, it's plus I always, this is a conversation I always have with people, and like you mentioned in regards to Mike Tyson. Michael Jackson was before my time. So anything I knew about Michael Jackson was from aunts and uncles playing his records or they liking him. It wasn't like I grew up in a time where he was that guy at that moment. So it's all kind of secondhand. So for me, it is going to be Jordan because I grew up during that era of Mike and seeing him play all the time. That's not to discredit what Michael Jackson did in music. I'm not having no debate of where he stands within music. But if you ask me who's the greatest Mike, in my opinion, it's Michael Jordan.
Now, who would you say, just in general, then, if you were polling the masses, do you think that Mike is still that Jordan would be ahead of Michael Jackson?
If you poll the masses?
Yeah.
No, Michael Jackson probably gets the nod because, again, you're talking different eras. You're talking people who were around during that Michael Jackson prime. So to them, they're going to know what it was like to be like...
Might be dead or you know what I'm saying, that was around...
Not really, because remember, Michael Jackson died very young. So there's still a lot of people walking this earth who were around during that time. And like when you said Jordan was in awe of him because Jordan grew up during that era. Jordan grew up listening to Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? So to him, it's like, that is the biggest idol I've ever seen. For me, it would be like a Michael Jordan because he was that guy during my time. You know, just like a kid now, you know, will see LeBron is going to be the greatest thing they've ever seen because they don't know before that.
And I'm here, exactly. And I'm here. I'll be debating with guys like that a whole lot. But I would say this: if we talking about, you can look at it from two ways. Obviously, if you want to go, who was famous, who was the most famous person that walked the earth, that got to be Michael Jackson. I mean, Michael Jackson could literally get on stage, not do one move, and people would pass out. I would pass out as a boy, as a man. You know what I'm saying? I'd be, Michael!
All he had to do was go and stand on the stage. You got people passing out.
Exactly. I ain't never seen nothing like that. Girls passing out. And Michael Jordan, shall I say, the way how he globalized the NBA was unlike anything I have seen. Is the reason why LeBron James is able to, do what he is doing right now. Obviously, he has social media to his benefit, but Michael Jordan didn't have that at his time. So if we're talking about on a famous level, it's definitely that. And I think on a talent level as well, it's the same order. Famously, it's the same order, and talent-wise, because let's think about it. Michael Jackson never dropped a bad album. Thriller was like the highest selling album of all time. I mean, literally classics throughout that whole album. Michael Jordan, 6 rings. He never lost. He basically never lost the finals. And when you think about Mike Tyson, this is where I was talking about that hot take that I got on Mike Tyson. As great as Mike Tyson was in his prime, he didn't beat the greatest competition. He didn't beat the stiffest competition. He lost to Lennox Lewis. He lost twice to Evander Holyfield. So, I mean, when it came to the Super Bowls, his Super Bowls, should I say, he didn't show up. And maybe a lot of the out the boxing ring incidents had a lot to do with that because he was going through, the charges that he had. But he didn't show up at that time. So I would definitely go Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson.
Well, I mean, Mike Tyson kind of suffered from something that happened to Roy Jones as well, that during his prime, there weren't other great fighters. Because Roy Jones kind of suffered from that too. Roy Jones, at his best years, when you look at some of the guys he's fighting, you're like, none of those guys are greats. But that's not Roy Jones' fault. And that same thing with Mike Tyson. When he got the fight with Evander, and unfortunately the rape conviction killed them fighting earlier in their career, he got him late. Mike was not the same guy at that point. You know what I'm saying? Same thing when he fought Lennox Lewis. He was not the same guy at that point. So I agree with you. Mike didn't perform his best against the better fighters, and his following is more of a cult following. It's those people that grew up watching him and remembered how intimidating he was at that moment. And then they just held on to that, as opposed to saying, well, you know what? He kind of fizzled out. He didn't really do the great things that some of these other guys did.
But he was the youngest heavyweight champion. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to give Mike his props, but it's just that when you're comparing him to those other two Mikes, his record has a lot more blemishes on it within his respective field. You know what I'm saying? Than MJ, who's 6-0 in the finals, and Michael Jackson, who put out Thriller. You know,
right?
They don't, as far as in music, you know, Michael Jackson don't have no blemishes on his record. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Jordan.
I mean, Michael Jackson is so famous that people really, if you say anything bad about Michael Jackson, they're not taking it. They're like, no, Michael Jackson didn't do that. He ain't do it. No, don't you say it. What, this Michael Jackson Thriller? Nah, he ain't do it. You know, that's what they would say, because Michael Jackson is just that popular. Even babies know who Michael Jackson is, and they wasn't even at that time.